Hello, Gwinnett. Welcome back to Bread Basics. My name's Moss, and today we're going to be making brioche rolls. You're probably familiar with brioche breads. Challah is a kind of brioche. You see brioche in hamburger buns and regular loaves. Brioche is basically the quintessential delicious, decadent bread. And the reason that it is so delicious is that it is an enriched dough. No, Brioche did not attend a Montessori school growing up. Moss is going to explain to us what enrichment is.
Enrichment is the process by which fat is incorporated into dough. You may be thinking that what makes food taste moist is water. Moist equals wet equals water. No, what makes food taste moist is fat. That's why you can eat soup that has chicken in it and you think this chicken tastes dry. In order to make dough taste extra moist, we can add water. Sure, that's only going to go so far. What we really need to add is more fat. And this can be any kind of fat: butter, olive oil, lard, Crisco, egg yolks. A brioche dough is an enriched dough. It's kind of like a square and a rectangle. All brioches are enriched doughs, but not all enriched doughs are brioches. So that's what we're going to be doing today, is adding a lot of fat to our dough. So you see I have a bunch of eggs here, a lot of butter, and then instead of water, we're going to be using whole milk. When you're baking a cake or cookies or something, you're using egg because you want it as a binder. The thing that binds it the most is the egg white. But when we're adding it to our bread, really what we want the most is the yolk. So for a couple of these, we're only going to add the yolk. Let's get started.
For this dough, we'll start with a 1/3 cup of milk, and then we'll add our packets worth of yeast, so 2 1/4 teaspoons if you have the jar, and then a 1/3 cup of sugar. We're gonna mix that all together. I forgot to add salt at this point, but I would add salt at this point. After we mix, it'll be 6 eggs. 4 of those are gonna be whole eggs, and 2 of those are just gonna be the yolk. To separate out, I have this tiny little bowl for the egg whites, and I just open the egg into my hand, and the white will run through your fingers while the egg stays in the center. So then you can just put the yolk in, go wash your hands, and then mix again. Here you see I'm finally adding the salt. And then we're gonna do 4 cups of flour. So if you remember from last time, we're gonna do that as 3 whole cups and then 2 half cups. While adding in this flour, you'll see that it took me not once, not twice, but 3 times of having flour fly all over the place before I decided that I should maybe pre-mix in the flour before I turned on my mixer. At this point, the dough is pretty dry and very yellow, which we love to see, but it's going to continue to get a little bit more wet, a little bit more tacky as we add in more and more of our butter. So for the butter, we have 1 cup, and I've divided this into 4 1/4 cups that are soft but not melted, and we're gonna add those one at a time and wait till they're fully incorporated before we add in the next one. Somebody must have called me handsome because I'm all buttered up right now. We did about 2 minutes per addition of butter on a pretty low speed. And I'm gonna finish this off by hand. And as you can see, we already have some good stretch. Okay, let's talk about kneading techniques. I never knead one way, and you'll eventually find what feels good for your body and what you think actually works. But I'll just show you a variety of different methods. Basically, all we're doing in kneading is we're stretching out the dough in order to develop those gluten. Here's the way that I did when I first started, and I don't love. But I would go with my hand and then kind of fold it back and twist it 90 degrees and go push, 90 degrees, push, 90 degrees. And that evolved into what you already saw me kind of evolving to, which is to thwap the dough on the table and then knead it out. And then I grab this end and I thwap, fold, and knead. People want to be nice to their dough, but you can beat it up. You can really, it can be anger management. It's also a lot of exercise. So feel free to take a break. Another way is to 2-handed knead it. So then you go in with both hands and you can put like your whole body weight into it. And then I kind of roll it back, flip it over, fold it back, and then roll. Rolling,
rolling.
When I'm trying to make my final dough, that's when I'll rotate it ever so slightly as I just push this extra lip into the center. And that's really good for like right before you're about to put it in the bowl to rise, because it creates this kind of tight skin. Sometimes if something's being particularly tough, I'll go. And it's very fun. This is my favorite, the thwap and roll. Thwap and roll. I'll see you in 5 minutes. Alrighty, so this is after some kneading, and as we can see, it has this beautiful, smooth, shiny skin. I'm gonna introduce you to something called the poke test, where you literally poke it and it springs back. But you want it to essentially have this elasticity that it's like, okay, it wants to retain its shape. And it already has this like little air pocket. It's ready. It says, I am ready to rise. So, boom. The largest bowl you have in your kitchen. That's what we need right now. We are gonna oil this up, once again, very generously. And then we are going to scoop. And now we're all saran wrapped. I will not be showing me saran wrapping on camera. I will not be that vulnerable on the internet. It has been approximately 4 hours since we last spoke, and our dough is looking quite large. Let's unveil. You can literally see all these little pockets of air. If I was a planner, I would have weighed this bowl before I put the dough in, and then I would weigh it afterwards. I'm not a planner. So we're gonna first transfer this dough to this bowl, and then we are going to pour it on the table. I'm gonna tear my scale with the new bowl, whop this in here. Whoop, there she goes. Our dough weighs 1,240 grams, and we are gonna try and have 7 rolls per pan. So a total of 14 rolls. And 1240 divided by 14 is more or less 89. If that math is hard for you, I recommend checking out tutor.com, available through your library card on the GCPL site. We are going to cut off approximately 89 grams of dough. That was too much. Especially the first one can take a while to get right. But I like to weigh them all out, because if we don't weigh them out, we end up with some rolls that are huge and then some rolls that are too small. In order to shape this, what we're going to do is we're going to essentially pull the edges and pull and fold into the center, and pull these edges and fold into the center and kind of pinch them up. And then I like to grab the corners that form from that and do the same, and then turn it over. And what you do is you take your 2 fingers and then you pull and then put it back and then pull. And what that's doing is creating a certain amount of surface tension. So pull, 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 and we put it there. And now we're just going to do that 13 more times. So here they all are, they're all made. We have wrapped them into saran wrap again, because basically in that whole shaping process, a lot of air was being forced out. And so now we're gonna let that air re-enter into the dough. And we're essentially gonna wait until they start to all touch one another and really start to take up the whole pan. But we don't want it to go that far above the pan, otherwise we might risk spilling over when we're in the oven. In the process of this second rising time for the bread to refill out after you shape it is called proofing. Don't mistake it for geometry proofing, which, once again, if you're interested in learning, check out tutor.com, available through gwinnettpl.org. See you all in about an hour. Dun, 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 dun. These are our proofed rolls. As you can see, they filled out a little bit more. Oh my goodness, it smells like yeast in here. It's so wonderful. We are going to demonstrate 2 different washes here. One of these is just an egg mixed together, and then the other one is butter. We will start with the egg over here. It's just a light wash, It's probably going to pool in the center, and that's okay. You'll notice that if you get eye level, these rolls are more or less flush with the pan, and that's also exactly what you want in terms of when to stop for proofing. So the oven is preheated to 325. Egg wash, butter. Halfway through, I'm going to flip them, and these should take about 20 to 35 minutes, so in about 15 minutes we'll check and we'll swap. Here they are. They are literally so gorgeous. We are going to let them cool before we bite in, despite every cell in my body that wants to do otherwise. But here you can see on the buttery side that it almost has this like crackly surface texture. But here on the egg wash side, it's far shinier and it has a little bit more of a crust to it. Time to try these. If you noticed before, we didn't like pre-oil the pan or anything, and that's because there's literally a cup of butter in here. Look at that. It's like flaky and it peels. That's really hot. Yeah! It just melts immediately in your mouth. It's so yummy. That was absolutely delicious. Time to try the second one. Yeah, this one's a lot darker on top, but that crumb is still...
My bites are normal size. Your bites are small. Squish.
Yeah! Thanks for watching.